Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of the No Limit Selling Podcast. And today we have Damon Lembi here. He's an expert at leadership. I can't wait to dive into this conversation. But before we start, let's kick off the show. The No Limit Selling Podcast, where mindset meets sales and leadership. Hey Damon, welcome to the program. So happy to have you here.
Umar, Happy New Year's, and it's great to be here.
So, it's just amazing how we have this technology. I'm here in downtown Toronto, and you are where in the world?
I'm in Sausalito, California, which is right over the Golden Gate Bridge.
Brilliant. I used to live in Berkeley, California. And so we've got this magic of technology. It looks like you're in the room with me. We're having a great conversation. But one thing that has not changed is the human experience. Mm-hmm. And so the dilemma that leaders had back in the time of Caesar and way beyond that, and what we have today, because humans haven't changed, is the same. Do you see it the same way that, we're still the same humans we were way back when?
Oh, absolutely. I totally agree. I mean, even with all this technology and AI and everything, at the end of the day, there's always going to be a need for human interaction and interpersonal skills.
So why don't we kick this thing off with your definition of leadership? What is leadership?
Well, my definition of leadership, first and foremost, is you don't have to lead a team of 2, 10, 100 people. I think it starts with self-leadership. You start
Hallelujah,
with yourself.
Praise the Lord.
There you go, right? Accountability, discipline, and, being responsible for yourself. I think that's where leadership starts. And then from there, I look at leadership as someone who leads with integrity, humility, and is there to support their team if they do have their team, and is more accountable than takes a victim mentality.
Absolutely. So my definition of leadership is very much that the leader is someone that serves three functions. One is to have a kick-ass, amazing vision of what they want to create, something that's so compelling that other people go, I want to come on that journey. Mm-hmm. The second thing is building an amazing culture where people let go of ego and really it's like, how do we make that vision a reality? And it's not about me winning or my department. It's about how do we do it? Mm-hmm. Third thing is long-term shareholder value. And so my definition of leadership is having enough confidence in the vision that we're creating and the people that we lead, that the people that are being led can rely on our belief in them to let go of the fear and go on this amazing journey with us.
Yeah, I love that. I was just speaking to a group the other day about remote work, and there's pros and cons to it. And, they said, what is one of the main things, for it to be successful? And I think a lot of it has to deal with exactly what you said. First of all, that leaders set a clear vision and direction, because the employees, the team members need to be able to trust that the leadership has, the right direction and vision. And on the flip side, leaders need to be able to trust their team if they're working remote to give them the autonomy and the space to get the work done, and get past the micromanaging, badging in and badging out, and really focusing more on being outcome driven.
So Damon, sometimes we have the illusion, like one of the problems in all organizations is communications. Mm-hmm. And a lot of marriages too. It's just one of those fundamental things, but almost everybody has this sense that I'm a really good communicator. It's the other person. That Damon guy's an idiot, not me.
Right.
So the same thing with clarity. Oftentimes we think we have clarity on what we're doing and we have this vision. But if you go into the organization and ask different people there, they'll articulate the vision quite differently. So A, how do we, why does that happen? And B, how do we fix it?
I think that does happen quite a bit. And it happens at work, and it happens in marriages, like you said, and with your kid as well. I think it all starts with creating a clear vision, but then really over communicating that vision in as many ways as possible, whether it's through town hall meetings, if you have a big company, or email, chat groups, whatever, Teams, Microsoft Teams. And then it's really making sure that the team members or your wife or whoever understands where they fall into that vision, how they can contribute, what's their purpose and their why that's related to that vision.
Absolutely. And I think one of the ways to do that as a leader is especially the leadership team. If you can't get that group of people to be aligned with what the vision is, then there's no hope of doing it beyond that, because that vision has to go down to all the employees, and then beyond the employees to the constituents and the customers that we serve. And one of the ways to ensure that we're on the right path is at each meeting, ask a different team member, how would you articulate our vision? And how do you know, because I think how is such a brilliant question, that we're actually in alignment with that? And what does it mean to you? And sometimes that leader that you ask, that VP of, let's say, manufacturing, the way they articulate it starts a conversation in the team to really understand, I never thought of it that way. Is it that way? And then how do you know we're on the right path? They're going to give you their criteria on how they perceive we're still in alignment. And the beauty of the leadership team is you got 8 people with different views. And if you can get that all aligned, then, like you said, over communicate it, because it's not a pain in the butt for people. No one's going to say, well, they said it 10 times. Oftentimes it's like, never heard it that way.
Yeah, it takes, I think, at least 7 times to stick. Taking a step back, my first real experience with vision was coming out of high school. I was a big baseball player. We talked about that beforehand. And I had a chance to go play minor league for the Braves or to go to Pepperdine University. I selected to go to Pepperdine University because of the vision of our coach. Our coach, Annie Lopez, we were a small Division I team, out in Malibu. And his vision was very clear. We're going to win the College World Series. We're going to win the College World Series. And he over communicated that over and over. And he kept it very simple. And, a lot of people are kind of like, how are we going to compete with the big players like LSU or Wichita State or whatever back then? And, sure enough, he built this team. I came in. Unfortunately, I got hurt and left. But they won the College World Series the very next year. And what that really taught me, moving forward as a leader myself, is if you get, like you said, the leadership team and they're bought in and they really believe in what's happening, and you can get it to permeate throughout your organization. And then, like at our practices, people would hold themselves accountable. Like, hey, we're all on this. We're all going to go. This is what our goal is. It's very simple. This is our purpose. This is our goal. And every action we take, we're going to do towards that. I think the same thing happens with business. It's like every decision you want to make, if you understand and you believe in your vision, should be directed at, is it going to help us towards this vision with whether it's our customers or shareholders, or is it against it? Right. So, I think it's over communicating and really buying into whatever that vision is.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. That gives me some new insights into it. And I think another area where organizations really flounder, you think it would be the basic thing, is roles and responsibilities. What does Damon do? Because I have a sense of what he does, but oftentimes I have the wrong sense. And then also sometimes the people themselves is like, this is my function. And the CEO is like, no, I needed you to do this. It's like, but no one ever told me. So I think getting those roles and responsibilities and then aligning it with the vision so people know, with clarity, when I do these things, I'm supporting the vision and making that a reality. And when I'm doing these other things, they're needed because that's part of my job. Otherwise, things are going to break, in which case we come back to the team and go, okay, this blocking and tackling has to be done because we just can't be vision. But those are the conversations we need to have. And oftentimes in organizations, those conversations don't happen. Damon, if you think that's true, why do you think some of the conversations that need to happen never do?
Well, I think some of the reasons why conversations that need to happen never do is, most of us at some point are kind of afraid, or when it comes to conflict and just having those hard conversations. So that's one reason why it never happens, or sometimes doesn't happen. And I think kind of like what you're talking about, and I got a question for you, is like, you probably see it a lot on sales teams, right? Where salespeople, sometimes they need to stay in their lane and focus on revenue generating opportunities instead of helping out here or helping out there. And, a lot of times it's the sales leadership who needs to kind of step in and say, hey, you know what? I need you to focus in on, if your role is outbound outbound sales, business development, you need to stay here. Don't worry about setting up the conference room for an event coming up.
Absolutely. And I think what's the highest good? Because Damon, if you worked in my company, you would be earning such a low pay. You'd be like going, oh my God, why am I here? No, other than that, you would have value to the company and what I pay you. So let's say I was paying you $100 an hour for your service to the company. If you were that good and you were a consultant to the outside world, your rate would be $500 or $1,000 an hour. And so when I get you to do things that are not in alignment with our vision and what your best and highest use is, we're stealing from the company. And people need to really see it that way. It's like, oh my God. So a lot of times you have companies have their leadership team meets. And one of the things I ask them is, how much is it costing you for this meeting? And it's like, $500. It's like, no. CEO, if you were a consultant, it's $2,000 an hour. VPs, pretty soon you've got a $20,000 an hour meeting. And if you're just checking in, it's like, shame on you. If you're solving problems that moves the company forward, then you're actually getting the highest ROI in what you do. So let me take a different direction here, Damon. How important is confidence to leadership? So being a leader of a company, how important is confidence?
I think confidence is very important. And I also think that great leaders are also okay with being vulnerable. And I think vulnerable is kind of vulnerability is kind of a paradox. On one hand, you have to be confident enough to be able to admit when you're making mistakes or you don't know the answer to something. On the other hand, you don't want to come across as so vulnerable that you're always saying sorry and that your team looks at you like, hey, I don't know if I should follow this man or woman because they don't believe in themselves enough. They're always apologizing. So I think that great leaders, for the most part, are vulnerable, but they do so in a way where that they have the confidence to back it up.
So I agree. Absolutely. It's so it reminds me of, I was visiting Singapore and it's an island state. So really, really small. So they have a very small museum. So I had a flight in the afternoon. So in the morning I went to the museum and there was a black and white TV there. And they were showing this broadcast from like the 1960s. And their leader, Lee Kuan Yew, who's seen as one of the greatest leaders that we've had in modern times, was on TV crying because they were trying to be annexed by Malaysia. There's only 2 million people at that time in Singapore, and Malaysia was much larger, more resources. And the Malaysian people basically voted that we don't want Singapore. So the weight of 2 million citizens came on his shoulders that we got to figure it out with an island state with no resources, just the human capital. And on that, he cried because it was just overwhelming. But then he just basically said, okay, how do we take this third world nation and make it a first world nation without becoming a second world nation? So go from, agriculture to high technology in like one generation. That's what they ended up doing. So great leaders certainly show vulnerability. So let's play a game, Damon. This is the confidence game. And what I'd like you to do is give me one piece of advice that a leader could use to build up confidence. Then I'll do the same. And then let's keep on going till we run out of ideas.
Piece of advice that a leader can give to build confidence
in themselves. Like you could, if you were talking to a CEO and you say, okay, you need more confidence, do this.
I would say the first thing is get out of your comfort zone.
Brilliant. And they're going to say, Damon, that is really scary. Yeah. How do I get out of my comfort zone?
I would say you just have to take a leap. You have to take a leap and get out of your comfort zone and stop worrying about failure. I use a term in my book I wrote, I call it purposeful awfulizing. Okay. So say, for instance, there's something you really want to do. Now, if you fail, think about what is the worst case scenario? What's the worst possible thing that can happen? It's often not that bad. So just get out of your comfort zone.
There's a really good chance it's not going to happen.
Yeah. It's
the worst outcome. It's not going to happen.
not going to
Now
happen.
what?
Even if it does, so what? Just go for it, right? So I would just say get out of your comfort zone, because I believe that's where growth really happens anyways. And it's just take a chance and go for it. Now the ball's in your court.
All right. So one of the things I would do is when you're just at the coffee station with one of your peeps just happens to be there, one of the things to ask them is, uh, Damon, who was your favorite teacher in at school? So, oh my God, my fifth grade English teacher, Mrs. So-and-so, was like totally amazing. What did she do to bring out the best in you? And as soon as you answer that, oh, she just gave me an idea and let me run with it. Then I know as a leader that if I want Damon to give his best effort, I need to show him the vision and let him run with it. So just if I ask you in a formal situation, what drives you, Damon? You're like a different filter comes in. But if you ask that offhanded question, tell me about your favorite teacher, then people reminisce and they give you the answers to how they want to be led. And that gives you confidence to be a great leader for them. And so what I suggest is every leader should have a dossier on all of your employees. So when if you do your job right and you move on and the next person takes over, they get a leg up. So ask that question would be my advice. Who is your favorite teacher? Back to you, Damon.
I like that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times I kind of do something similar. I'm going to steal that, by the way.
Oh, good.
I do something similar in interviews. When it gets to me, I ask, share with me something about a great manager, a great leader you had, and why. And they kind of get around to like, how do you like being managed or led, and kind of try to better understand what they have to say. But yeah, I mean, I think that'd be pretty cool to take it back to school. What was a great teacher and how did they help motivate you? So that's a good one. I would say another thing I would tell leaders to get more confidence is to over prepare and sometimes just outwork, work hard. I think at the end of the day, there's no shortcuts. And if you really work hard, and I'm not saying work 10 to 14 hours a day. I mean, I've dealt with imposter syndrome. We all have, and I have just 3 little steps: work hard, focus, and when it's game time, learn to let go. But it all starts with working hard and preparing. And if you do that, that should give you a backdrop on saying, hey, you know what? Now that it's game time, I got to go into this big presentation. I have to go meet with investors. At least you know that you're prepared going into it.
Absolutely. So I think every single CEO should go to the city morgue. No, only kidding. What we need to learn to do is to run an autopsy on things that went wrong. Mm-hmm. Like what went wrong? What do we need to learn from it? And then we change our SOP to reflect that. And good leaders do that, but great leaders also do it when things go fabulously well.
Absolutely.
How do we get that result? Well, are we doing the same thing we did, or did we do something different? And I think that just instills in their leadership team, because we're modeling what we want them to do, and they start doing it with their charges. And before you know it, you get best practices and also the things we should avoid and never repeat. Is a critical way to actually improve the entire organization and get confidence in ourselves and extend it to the people we lead.
I think great leaders, first of all, create space for their charges, so to speak, to be able to fail, right? To be able to fail and make mistakes and learn from those mistakes. And I think it's great to make mistakes, just maybe not make the same mistake over and over, make new mistakes, make different mistakes. But I like what you said about even when things go really, really well, doing a postmortem and getting curious about, I think a lot of it has to do with being curious. Like, what did we do that went really well, so that the next time we're in this situation, we don't need to reinvent the wheel. We can just continue going down this path and iterating on that.
Absolutely. So
who's winning the game right now, by the way? What's the score?
The listeners are.
Okay.
I know I am. I'm taking notes as we go. Yeah. So let's change lanes here. So define grit for me. What is grit to you?
What is grit to me? I would say grit is it's very similar to growth mindset. I love both books, by the way. I read
Yes.
Carol Dweck's Growth Mindset, and I read Angela Duckworth's Grit. I love both of them. To me, grit is focusing on the process instead of the end results, and not being afraid to fail, dust yourself off, and do it again. Just get up and keep trying. Just having the grit and the determination and the desire to keep moving forward, regardless of any failure that gets in your way, right? And just know that you're moving towards, even if it's a 1% improvement, you're moving towards it. What does grit mean to you?
If passion and tenacity had a baby, it would be grit.
Passion and tenacity. Okay.
So let's play the game. Damon, what's your advice to help CEOs be grittier?
Be grittier? I would say my advice to help CEOs be grittier is to first understand, especially if small business owner or whatever it is, it's not all glory and greatness. You're going to have to roll up your sleeves and do the work, and realize that getting back to leadership, a lot of times that requires you to lead by example. And if you're in there putting in the hard work, your team will follow and do the same.
So, Damon, here's my advice. I want you to get your wrist like this for me. And I want you to get your two fingers and put it on the pulse point on your wrist, and you will notice that you're not dead. And,
Right.
and the reason I want to share that with you is this. So just think about it for a moment, Damon. How many times in your life have you come close to dying? And it could be financial death, like something went horribly wrong, or it could be, a near car accident or bankruptcy. If you were just spitballing, how many times do you think you came close to death?
I mean, probably at least 10. And
Yeah.
one of them, just to give you an example, in the, my business has been around 28 years, but around the .com days back in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Oh yeah, I was there.
Right? I mean, we were with uphill climb. It was going to be very tough to stay alive and make it through, but just never gave up. Just never gave up. Got up, put your clothes on, go to the office, and sometimes it was like I was just like running into a friggin' wall every day. But then you just get up and you do it again. Like you said, you're still alive. So as long as you're still alive, just keep moving forward and keep doing what you learn. Keep learning and keep moving forward, and just doing the best you can do.
So my advice is A, you're not dead, and B, this thing that you're going through right now probably is not going to kill you.
Yeah.
And so you might as well just brush off and go for it, because the thought is like, oh my God, people are going to see me as a failure, or this is going to happen, that's going to happen. That's not happened in the past. So just keep on freaking going.
Keep on going. And a lot of times, and I used to be this way too, like sometimes we get too concerned with what other people think about us. And my thing about that is these other people that we're so concerned about, they have their own lives as well, right? So they may think about you for a minute and then they move on. So just stop, put aside what other people are thinking, give it your best shot. Like you said, you're not dead, so just keep going.
So, Damon, are you saying this is going to be it? After this conversation, you won't think of me? Another gritty thing to do would be very much, before you do something, there's a reason that God gave you this video studio inside your head, is to just visualize how you want this next thing to go.
Mm-hmm.
And in that visualization, you could do what you suggested is, if it goes sideways, this is the worst case scenario. But if it went fabulously well, this is what is going to happen. And this is how I feel and go. And just knowing those things before you go attempt something new really gives you that resilience you need, because it's not something new or it's like, oh, what do I do now? I'm lost. It's like, oh, I rehearsed this. I know what to do. Mm-hmm. And what I need to do is get up and move forward. Like later on today, I'm going to be doing a video on teaching people how to get back up and move forward. And I'll put it in the show notes when this thing releases.
Sweet.
So, Damon, we're going to do one last avenue we're going to explore, which is passion.
Mhm.
Can you define passion for us?
Can
What
I?
does passion mean to you?
Passion means to me is the desire to want to be successful at something, and I believe it means fully committing. Going all in on something is what. Not saying that you can't change down the line if it definitely doesn't work out, but to me, passion is committing 2 feet in to what you're passionate about.
Superb. So, passion to me would be this feeling of openness and energy coming up within you, and it focuses your vision on that which you're passionate about, which could be baseball or that really cute, amazing person across the room
There you go.
or a burrito, whatever that is for you.
Yeah.
That is passion, that you lose sense of everything else, is just laser focused on that thing with a lot of energy and an openness in your heart to go make it happen.
I like that, and I'm sure you probably read Good to Great by
Oh yeah,
Jim
Collins.
Collins, and he talks about that. I think this is important out there for your listeners. The hedgehog, right?
Yes.
Because the hedgehog approach is you got to find something that you're passionate about, that you actually could be the best in the world at, or could be great at, and then also that you can make money at. And I'm referring to your business career.
So the way he articulated it was, what's the measure?
Mm-hmm.
And the measure could be making money, so it's a dollar amount. And also it could be, because I'm a firm believer in that as well. And it could be, well, the driver for me, Damon, is referrals.
Mm-hmm.
If I do a great enough job for Damon, Damon's going to refer me to 3 of his colleagues, and that's going to result in money. So my measure is referrals, happens to be the one I use.
It's great.
And Damon, strategy or tip, how to be more passionate?
How to be more passionate? I would say it's a good one. I say, you just got to find something that you believe in or you're excited about, and go all in. Fully commit to something, and not being afraid for it to go sideways. Just go all in, give it your best, and learn and let go and enjoy yourself.
Brilliant. So Damon, who is one of the most important people in your life? It could be romantic or family love. Like, who's that person for you?
Well, I would say the most important person in my life is, well, can I cheat and say my wife and my kids?
Yeah. So pick one of your kids.
Okay. All right.
Pick the one that you'd put the oxygen mask on an airplane first, then go to the other kid.
Do
Don't
that.
do that.
hey, just like what we started about, you got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first.
Absolutely.
Self-leadership, right? That's when we started this conversation. But no, I would give them both masks and not have one myself if I could. But my youngest son, I have a daughter, Lucy, and a son, Wally, who's named after my father, who passed away 12 years ago. And if the question was in my entire life, I would have to say probably my dad was my biggest idol.
Let's pick Wally for now, just as an example. So, Damon, when you think of Wally right now and how much you love him, notice that a picture pops up in your mind's eye.
Yeah.
Do you see the picture, color or black and white?
Color.
Color. What size is it? 8.5 by 11 or bigger?
Big.
Okay, so when you look at that picture, you feel that love you have for him. Your face is lit up right now, by the way.
Right.
So what I want you to do is I want you to double the size of that picture and notice how it changes the feelings in your body.
Okay.
Increases, right?
Yes.
Turn up the brightness as well and notice how it changes it.
Yep, got it.
That, my friends, is how you increase passion. Is just use this amazing system we have inside our minds that allows us to control how we feel. And had I asked you before we started this exercise, could you love Wally more? The answer would have been hell no. And I just showed you how to do that. So, Damon, so I asked you a lot of questions. What's a question you have for me before we part company?
I think I had a couple of them, but this goes back to where we first started about the challenge with communication. So as you've been doing your podcast and being a podcast host, how has it helped you, if it has, become a better communicator?
So it hasn't helped me become a better communicator.
Okay.
I don't think. Other people might notice the difference in interviews over the time, but what it has helped me tremendously is my highest value in life is learning new things. So I do this very selfishly, which is to pick Damon's brain and figure out amazing things that that I would never know, or things that I know, but I see it from a different vantage point. So that learning new things has been such a gift, which has given me more confidence, has given me better insights, has given me grit, because now because I realize that there's 12 ways, there's 24 ways to solve a problem. Whereas in the past, it would have been, there's only one way and I don't have it. And it's like, no, there's many ways. So it's helped me in innumerable ways to be a better human being.
Love it. Great answer. You get an A.
Oh, awesome. So Damon, how can people get a hold of you and find out more about you? And whatever you say, we're going to put in the show notes as well. But for people on a treadmill jogging right now, what do they need to know?
I would say connect with me on LinkedIn at Damon Lembi. That's the best way. And I have a book out, The Learn It All Leader, that you can find on Amazon or Barnes & Noble. But
damn it, we forgot to talk about the book. We'll do that next interview.
It's okay. It's okay. I enjoyed this.
Damon, thank you so much for being on the show. I really appreciate you being here. And let me end the broadcast and we'll chat for a few minutes.
You got it.
By the way, dear listeners, if you like this episode, let Damon know. Wherever you listen to the podcast, please give it a great review and let your friends know. Subscribe to this podcast.